Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Some juicy CDL drama after the final day of the Mage 2 qualifiers with Shotzzy and Scump calling out the Scumbag professional players that are still using the loudness equalization change to the sound to allow them to hear basically everything on the entire map as it stands right now. Pros are not happy about this, but everyone seems to be using it. Could the pros potentially GA it? Will it be a big factor when we get to LAN in Boston? Questions still to be answered. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to discuss. Firstly, this is absolutely hilarious because I've never seen this before in my life. I didn't know this is even possible. But here we go, Doors baby. Doors in Call of Duty, can you believe it? This is a grand finals of a tournament last night where this guy gets absolutely bodied through the door. So just note to self, don't stand in front of that door when someone could be bursting through it, because if you do, this could possibly happen to you. And man, if that happened in Champs or something, it's a good question, right? Because what would happen if someone's standing behind a door and the door gets burst through? It probably shouldn't just kill you immediately, but this guy just goes absolutely flying, man. I can't believe it. That is just fantastic. Hopefully his team and he managed to regain from that, because absolutely ridiculous stuff. Also, this from last night wanted to mention on Pristini, because there has been some talk about, oh, you know what, Surge might need to change for Mack or something, bring Pristini in, and last night he went on an 18 kill streak in a series of 8s they played, which is, I mean, look, 31 in 14 on an 18 streak it was at a time, which of course breaks the CDL record at 16 that we just had set by Simp the other week, right? Now, look, Pristini won the World Championship with Simp back in the Black Ops 4 days on a United. Since then has kind of struggled to get a consistent spot in the league. He has obviously been on that Seattle Surge team in Cold War with Octane and Co. Last year didn't really work out for him. He subbed in briefly for FaZe in that series where Simp was unwell against OpTic towards the start of the year. Then there was questions whether he would return to the starting team or any other team. Didn't really happen. He's kind of been grinding challenges again. But yeah, Pristini's an interesting player because when he's on, he's absolutely on and out of control good, but he's very inconsistent again, so it's kind of difficult for a lot of those more inconsistent teams to want to pick up a guy like Pristini because he's not necessarily going to solve some of their issues, you could argue. But yeah, just wanted to mention him because obviously a player that, well, twin brother of Arcitys, of course, not identical twin brother, crucially to note, but Arcitys the last few years has always kind of got the better of these opportunities. You could argue for good reason, but yeah, very different players, of course, in terms of what they do on the map. The other thing I've got to mention for you guys is hilarious, is Beans last night. So he also was hopping into the Pro 8, and there was a game where Beans and Dashy ended up on the same team. They both ultra fried the other team. Beans ended like 38 and 18, and Dashy asks Beans like, hey, are you still teaming with Doug? Why are you still teaming with Doug type thing? Because that Boston Academy team is very good. Beans, Shawnee, Crimp, and Doug. The argument is that you put like a top tier SMG in there, and that team is immediately the best team in challenges. But with Doug, you know, maybe they get held back sometimes. But Beans obviously gives Doug a fair bit of credit here, says he's one of the most special humans he's ever met, as in he's kind of a one-of-a-kind player. But Dashy had his experience with Doug a few years ago. That's where Dashy got his come-up when he played with Doug on Complexity back in World War II. So maybe a similar path here that Beans has taken as well.
Still smoking him like, who did you guys challenge? Crazy. No.
Yo, Beans, you still playing with Doug?
The GOAT himself.
He's going through the same path I went through, the GOAT path.
It's actually facts. It makes greatness, and it's
yeah, you get, yeah, 100%.
He's the most special man I've ever met. I've never met a human like it, and to be honest, I don't think I'd ever meet a human like it again.
No, I think he's one of a kind, literally.
Yeah,
like, it's just...
and I'm truly grateful because what a man he is.
Pretty funny though from Dashy, but also Beans, will he get a shot in the starting team of Boston at some point or another? Just because we saw earlier today the difficult bracket that Boston have. They play FaZe round 1. If they lose that, they might play, well, they do play Surge, I believe, in the lower side. So they could have a pretty rough showing in terms of a placing here, Boston, theoretically. And if they do, then maybe it's time for them to consider a move, given that Beans has been killing it on their academy team. Seems only a matter of time until someone gives them a chance. Maybe it's going to be the Boston main team, but it's been Awakening who's been their probably main star from an AR perspective. So, you know, I'm sure Methods is thinking about his situation, but if you lose Methods, do you lose quite a lot of leadership on that team? That's also another argument that Boston will have to consider if and when the team may or may not underperform in the major. Now let's talk about this whole scumbag, cheating, potential drama type stuff. Firstly from Hicksy, when Afro is on point, he moves differently on the map, and Scrappy replies to this about the sound settings. We'll see here in just a second. Did want to look at some numbers though from Afro, because I saw Aches on the flank last night made some faded comment about the fact that, oh yeah, it's about time Afro turns up in a series, because been underwhelming so far. But like, I'm going to say it, Eggs. If you watched any of these games, it's like Rokkr are basically Afro and iLLeY. Like, that is their strategy. It's the same way that FaZe right now are aBeZy and iLLeY. Like, they're both their strategies. Like, just hope these guys go off and then see what happens from there. It's basically been the case, right? I mean, when Afro goes off, they tend to win. When he doesn't, they tend to lose. Just how it is. His numbers so far this season are pretty absurd. In hardpoint, he has a 1.1. In search, he has a 1.3. In control, he has a 1.2. And I'm kind of confused how their KDs and hardpoint are so good, but yet their record is still losing. Like, they must just be losing all the game ones like they usually do. But yeah, just wanted to shout out Afro because he's been unbelievable so far. And we do see a lot of hashtag free pred or hashtag free Asim or whatever, but you know, Afro's obviously been on par, I think, with those players so far this season at least. Now, the other side of this though is the sound settings, right? So Scrappy says he needs to chill out with the sound settings though. If you've not got it on, you aren't trying. Now, Afro says, I turned them off last week. Benjamin Bance can confirm. No way, Marcus, you're sounding, my friend. Nah, you're lying. And he chose a picture of the mix sample, whatever, because, you know, formerly known as, or still known as Astro's in by Afro. Fantastic gamer tag, of course. And here's the Astro kind of a mix-up thing he's got going on here. So Afro reckons that himself and probably the entire Toronto team, presumably, turned off this loudness equalization setting. The other day, I said it was like a software. It's actually a setting that anyone can enable in their Windows settings. I'll share how to find it here in a second if you guys want to try it out or something, because otherwise you guys can Google it. So I might as well tell you how it's potentially done. But it seems like some pros have now decided to take it off, because Scrappy's obviously, you know, wants to complain about them using it. And then Afro's saying, actually, no, guys, we took it off now, so don't worry. Toronto, presumably, and also Minnesota both aren't using it anymore. However, some players and teams potentially are, and this is the issue with it to a certain extent. Let's say the pros decided between them, you know what, guys, this is super cheese. The loudness equalization, the idea is it will just boost up massively the sound of the real low, quieter sounds, such that you can hear footsteps from a mile away, and you need zero ability to have any awareness or anything, because you can just hear them coming wherever they are. Reduces the skill gap, I would say, significantly. However, if one pro is using it, or if one amateur is using it, and then someone plays them and thinks, wow, he heard me from so far away, must be using this setting, I guess I'll chuck it on as well. The entire league ended up doing this, and it's been a bit of a disaster for especially Search and Destroy lately. Everyone's just crawling around everywhere because they don't want to get hurt, understandably so. Seems like some pros, therefore, are trying to say, you know what, guys, this is ridiculous, let's stop using it. But the issue is that if someone gets heard from arguably further away than they should have done, then immediately in their head they think, oh, wow, that guy is sounding, as Scrappy most eloquently described, and therefore, I guess I'll chuck it on as well. So this is Shotzzy's thoughts on the matter, when he says, yeah, like, they're hearing me all the time, this is an absolute shambles, and Scump's like, so these guys are basically being scumbags, and Shotzzy eventually agreed, like, yeah, there are some guys like that in the league as it stands.
What do you think about the match today?
I'm excited. Dude, this sound horse.
It's bad?
Yeah, dude, it's bad. So bad. I'm not saying that's why we lost, but like, dude, like, whenever you were playing,
yeah, he almost got picked right there. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, because whenever you were playing, like, no one, I mean, like, probably like one team was on the setting, but like now everyone's on the setting, and it's just like,
it's insane,
bro. Like, you had to like slow walk. You want to get it sounded. It's insane. Like, people don't even need awareness to like have awareness.
Jesus. So you're saying right now that we got a GA loudness equalization?
I mean, you can't even GA it though, because how are you gonna prove, like, yo, how are you on it? You know, how are you gonna?
So you're saying there's scumbags in the league?
Oh, what? Saying that? I'm not saying that.
Yo, he's saying it.
Yeah, so you're saying that.
There's definitely scumbags in the league. Because you could
My
GA
mic
it.
need to be turned up.
You could GA it.
Nah, how though? Like,
just tell people don't use it.
Yeah, but you think, like, but how can you prove they're not using it?
Exactly, scumbags. That's what I'm saying. People are going to use it anyway because they're scumbags.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, we do have scumbags, actually.
It's all good, though.
This is what Bean said the other day. I would rather have no red dots than loudness equalization be a thing. What a horrific state the game is in. And the funny thing is that this setting, I believe, is not it's not COD specific. I saw people the other day saying, oh yeah, turn this on in Valorant and you'll be ridiculously good. So it's a funny setting that I guess people haven't really discovered until now that is viable. It's not exactly a COD problem necessarily, but it does affect the way that competitive is played, largely because dead silence obviously isn't a thing, right? If it was, then it would be okay, but unfortunately it is most certainly not. And even if dead silence was a thing in many Call of Duty games, dead silence has never been full dead silence. Yes, it's of course a field upgrade in this game, but as a perk, even I think in Ghosts it was fully silent, but even in like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, dead silence was like there was some noise you'd make from certain ranges away, even though it was pretty much silent. And loudness equalization even back then would probably have tipped the tide in one team's favor over another. So I think it's just basically just going to the Windows settings here, go into into your system sounds, go into properties on the headphones, and then you can select bass boost, loudness equalization under the properties. And if you do that, apparently this is the way to go. Now, the question that I have really, because Shotzzy was obviously making some statements that clearly, I guess he's saying the OpTic guys aren't using it. Toronto say they aren't using it. Minnesota say they aren't using it. But he believes that certain people they play, maybe he thought Vegas that they played just the day before, because he said that before they played the series last night against FaZe, were potentially abusing this for a competitive advantage. Now, the question that I have, going into the major, is this going to be replicated in a major environment? Because obviously the PCs at the major themselves are set up with the same Windows that they're using on their own PC. But would they go into the settings and change this, or should that be banned to a certain extent? Like, you know, theoretically on LAN, you could enforce a GA of this, or at least a ban of this. So a GA, the idea is gentleman's agreement. The players agree between them, you know what, guys, this is ridiculous. It lowers the skill gap. Let's just agree not to use it. And it seems like they're trying to make that happen based on what we saw over the last few minutes. But some pros probably still are using it because, you know, if you're a team like Vegas Legion or any other team that's struggling right now, then you need every advantage you can get. You can do it to phase up, and, you know, you can understand why teams might take advantage of something along these lines. However, at the major, then it's like, well, the PCs are all there on the setups. You could actually check, right? A referee theoretically could check, but of course, that's not a GA then. That's a league mandated thing. So maybe there's an argument that says the league should put into the rule set somewhere that there is going to be a ban on using this setting, and that the referees will be checking before games to ensure that players have this setting turned off, right? Which is, you know, it's a possibility. I don't know if the league would do that. I don't know if that should be within their remit, but I do think that it affects the quality of the play of the game, not just from a skill gap perspective, but also from a viewer perspective as well, in terms of the way people move around the map right now. And even though some teams disagree with this whole sentiment and obviously think certain players are scumbags for using it, I do wonder if certain players will be going into the settings at the major and turning this on to try and get every advantage they possibly can. So we'll see about that one in the comments below. What do you think about Scump and Shotzzy's thoughts on this whole thing? That's the thing in Call of Duty, that regardless of what's going on, some sort of cheating drama is only so far away. Even it's been kind of while since we talked about stuff like, you know, actual proper cheating, but then Doug Sensemartin came around yesterday with some accusations like that, and this is kind of one of those borderline cases that Sasha was talking about a couple of weeks ago now. So very much interested your thoughts on that in the comments below. Just wanted to close out with this. Overall, KD's in stage 2, tied for first, I guess technically, is Scump here, right? Because Scump also had a 1.22, even though he only played one series in stage 2, and then of course he was out of the team, and they obviously continued rather well from there. But these are the overall numbers. Prit had a 1.22 to go 1 in 4. That's pretty tough. Awakening at a 1.20. Afro a 1.18. Scrappy a similar number. So yeah, top 10 from Dashy and above. Kind of weird how like Dashy looked so far this season, pretty much the entire season, Dashy has been bang average pretty much as an AR player. But yesterday he just went complete god mode. But also it's worth noting the fact that we've got a pretty good balance here between ARs and SMGs. We've got, okay, let's just look at the ARs for example. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ARs and 5 SMGs in the top 10, which is probably about what you want to see in terms of the nice meta, because that discussion between some of the pros that, oh yeah, the Vaznev's too good, oh yeah, the Scar's too good, has kind of calmed down a bit now, and we're seeing a more equitable playing field between the two weapons, which I guess is kind of what we want to see. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.